These trees were alive when Jesus was alive. Scientists have dated the oldest olive trees in this garden to at least 900 years old. Some researchers believe the root systems go back much further, possibly 2,000 years. Possibly to the night he knelt here and asked if there was another way. This is the Garden of Gethsemane. And I need to tell you what happened when I arrived. The path down from the old city, across the Kidron Valley, toward the Mount of Olives. The garden visible below. Gethsemane sits at the foot of the Mount of Olives, just across the Kidron Valley from the eastern wall of Jerusalem. It's a short walk from the city, which is part of what makes it remarkable. On the night of his arrest, Jesus didn't go far. He crossed a valley. He walked into a garden he had visited many times before. John's Gospel tells us Judas knew exactly where to find him, because Jesus often went there with his disciples. This was his quiet place. His retreat. The place he came to when he needed to be away from the crowds, away from the noise, away from the weight of what was coming. And on the last night of his freedom, he came here again. Join me, and I'll walk you through what this garden holds, and what it asked of me when I stood inside it. Arriving at the garden. Stone wall. A sense of enclosure and quiet as you step inside. The Garden of Gethsemane is smaller than you expect. I think I imagined something vast. A forest, maybe. A place where you could lose yourself. What you find is intimate. Enclosed. A walled garden with a handful of ancient olive trees and a path that winds between them. There were other visitors when I arrived. A small group of pilgrims from Korea, singing softly near the entrance. A couple sitting in silence on a stone bench. And then I found a space near one of the oldest trees, and I stopped. Close-up of the ancient olive tree trunk. The texture of the bark. The age visible in every curve. I've stood in a lot of holy places on this journey through Jerusalem. Some of them required effort to feel. You had to fight through the crowds, the tour groups, the incense, the noise, to find the thing underneath. Gethsemane didn't require any effort. The weight of this place meets you at the gate. The night in the garden. The Church of All Nations, its facade, the mosaic above the entrance. Then interior, the dim lighting, the rock of agony at the altar. Adjacent to the garden is the Church of All Nations, also called the Basilica of the Agony. It was built over a specific rock. The rock where, by tradition, Jesus knelt and prayed on the night of his arrest. The church is deliberately dim inside. The windows are made of translucent alabaster, not glass, filtering the light to purple and gold. The architects wanted you to feel the darkness of that night. It works. Approaching the rock at the altar. At the center of the church, behind an iron fence shaped like a crown of thorns, is the rock. Just a flat section of limestone. Unremarkable on its own. But this is where the Gospels record what might be the most vulnerable moment in all of Scripture. Luke writes that Jesus was in such anguish that his sweat became like drops of blood falling to the ground. A condition doctors call hematidrosis. It can occur under extreme psychological stress. The capillaries near the sweat glands rupture. He knew what was coming. And he asked, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, not my will, but yours." Pause. I've said those words in prayer before. Casually. Routinely. Standing 6 feet from that rock, they sounded completely different. The disciples who slept. Quiet corners of the garden. Stone benches. Shade under the olive trees. There's a detail in the Gethsemane story that has always stayed with me. 3 times, Jesus went to pray. 3 times, he returned to find his disciples asleep. He'd asked them to stay awake, to watch with him, to simply be present in the hardest hour. And 3 times, they couldn't do it. I used to read that and feel frustration on his behalf. How could they sleep through that? But standing in that garden, in the quiet, under those ancient trees, with the warmth of the afternoon pressing down, I understood it differently. They were exhausted. They were afraid. They didn't fully understand what was happening. And when the people we love are in anguish, and we don't know how to help, sometimes the body simply shuts down. I've done that. I suspect you have too. Gethsemane isn't just the story of Jesus's courage. It's also the story of ordinary people who failed the moment, and were still chosen, still called, still used. That's the part that stays with me, what the olive trees hold. Walking slowly among the ancient trees, touching the bark gently, looking up through the branches at the sky. I came back to the trees. There are 8 ancient olive trees in this garden, tended by Franciscan monks for centuries. Olive trees are almost impossible to kill. You can cut them to the ground, and they grow back. The root system survives. Life continues underground, invisible, until conditions are right to rise again. I don't think that's an accident. In a garden where the central story is about death and resurrection, the oldest living things are trees that cannot be permanently destroyed. The bark was warm from the sun. Rough. Ancient in a way you can feel but not quite describe. And I thought, if these roots go back far enough, the scientists who believe they're 2,000 years old are right, then this tree was here. It witnessed what happened in this garden. It outlasted the disciples who slept under it. It outlasted the soldiers who came with torches and swords. It outlasted the empires that rose and fell around it. And it is still here. Still growing. Still producing fruit. What do you do with that kind of continuity? Reflection plus close. Looking back at the garden from Kidron Valley. The Church of all nations is behind the trees. Jerusalem's walls above. I didn't come to Gethsemane expecting to be undone by it. I came as a researcher. A storyteller. Someone trying to understand what these places actually feel like when you're standing in them. What I found was a garden that doesn't perform its holiness. It doesn't need to. It just holds the weight of what happened here, quietly, across 2,000 years, and waits for you to be still enough to feel it. I think that's what Gethsemane is for. Not just that night, but for every person who has ever knelt somewhere, in a garden, in a hospital room, in a car in a parking lot at 2 in the morning, and asked if there was another way. And then chose to keep going anyway. If this garden speaks to something you're carrying right now, tell me in the comments. You don't have to explain it. Just let me know you were here. And if you're new to this channel, this is what we do. We go to the places where the hard questions live, and we stay long enough to hear something true. Subscribe below. Come with me, there's still more to find.